Ready.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? Am I
Yeah.
echoing? Okay, thank you for that. So
Can you hear me?
yes, and if you don't hear me, just tell me to speak up. I tend to be soft-spoken. Um, Most people say that about me, but everybody but my husband, he never says that about me. Hello, everyone. I'm Beverly Vogt, publisher of the Breast Cancer Wellness Magazine, and I want to introduce someone to you today that has become a dear friend. Karen and I, share a passion about helping women get their message out about after they've been diagnosed with breast cancer to help others. The other part that Karen and I mutually share is getting that story written down and how to get it out into the world and how important that is. So we have an expert in this space today. So let me introduce you to Karen. Karen Strauss is here to help us understand this book publishing process in today's world because it's changed. So she is an expert in the space of everything book related. So hang on. Sorry about that. Karen has worked in publishing for more than 30 years and has held management and marketing positions at major publishing houses, including the Free Press, Crown, Random House, and Avon. Those are huge publishing giants in the world. Some of them have been bought out, come under other umbrellas today, but these are huge giants in this space. So she's been well positioned in this space. Karen founded Hybrid Global Publishing in 2011 to help authors, speakers, and entrepreneurs get their message out by writing and publishing a book. She offers publishing, distribution, and marketing services for organizations and individual authors. Karen is the author of Book Publishing for Entrepreneurs, Top Secrets from a New York Publisher, and offers an online course called Publishing 101, your complete guide from idea to published author. So I would like for you to welcome Karen Strauss, to a fellow breast cancer survivor, to our group today. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you, Beverly. It's an honor to be here.
I am very thankful to have met you. We have, like I said, we have some things in common about publishing and why we're on this journey to help make a difference the best we can. And breast cancer is such a personal experience. It reaches us on such levels that sometimes it's difficult to put it into words. And not everybody on the outside world understands. So when we're in that space and when we're in that transformational space to share that message with others is why this webinar today is so important. So let me ask you this first question, Karen. Why did you create Hybrid Global Publishing, and how does your work benefit those you serve?
Certainly. So I've been, as you mentioned, I've been in publishing now. It's more than 35 years. That's what I'm admitting to.
That's good. That's great.
That's it. And so I decided to leave corporate publishing to start my own business. Actually started working with mid-sized publishing houses who couldn't get their books into Barnes and Noble, and at the time Borders, Books A Million, et cetera, et cetera. So I was kind of a national account sales reps for people. And funnily enough, I started representing a lot of Christian publishers. And they wanted to get into the secular marketplace. And so they would hire me, this nice Jewish girl from New York City. And they used to have this thing, they used to recommend me to their fellow Christian publishers, and they would say, she's not a believer, but she sells books real good. So, so I started selling on commission, so on and so forth. And then in 2009, Borders goes out of business. I lose 40% of my income.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I didn't know.
Yeah, 40% of my income because I was working on commission. And if that wasn't bad enough, during that time, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So here I was with kind of 50% of my business is is gone. What am I going to do? I needed to focus on my health, going through chemotherapy and radiation, you know, but I had amazing support around me, right? I had friends, I had family, I had people who would walk my dog to the park. You know, I was very, very lucky. It really took a village. My assistant and other people who worked with me in my business. So it was really, I was wrapped in like this cocoon. But it did give me time to think while I was healing, what do I want to do with my life? Tomorrow isn't guaranteed.
Yeah.
So what is my purpose? And I really started thinking, what is my purpose in life? How do I make an impact?
That's an amazing turning point, and it's very therapeutic and healing because when we have a new purpose where we can help others, there's a synergy that happens in our body that just and all these things start lining up to make a difference for ourselves and for others. Karen, is it okay if at the end of this, if everybody here or anybody here has any questions, if they can ask questions at
love
the end?
that.
Okay, that's great because
Yeah.
it is rare when we get somebody with your experience and a breast cancer survivor in the publishing space that we can ask, personally and live. So I thank you very much for that because there's so many questions when you've got this story inside of you and it's like, who do you ask? What's the next steps and
Right,
everything?
exactly. So I just wanted to finish up by saying,
Yes,
so
I'm
my
sorry.
purpose, I decided to start Hybrid Global Publishing because I knew that I wanted to help particularly women whose voices have been muted or in our case with breast cancer survivors, it's kind of you do have this story to tell. Everybody has a unique journey. And even if it's just a legacy, right? That's so important. And I wanted to help people get their stories out and have their voices heard. And I knew that was going to be my purpose in life. And that's what it's been.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. And there's, it's an exciting time when you see that book finished for them because you know how excited it is for them and they think, it's real, it's real, it's real. Here it is. But getting from A to B takes a little bit of discipline, and you have to, sort of follow some steps to get it completed. So how has the publishing world changed, and how is it easier for breast cancer survivors and breast cancer leaders to become published authors? Because it's changed from, I'm 30 some years into the breast cancer, space, if you will. And when I was diagnosed, there weren't Barnes and Nobles on every corner. And now we're to the place where Barnes and Nobles aren't on every corner again. So,
Right.
publishing has changed. So where's it at today?
It makes it so much easier for independent authors who want to tell their story to be published because traditional publishing has really morphed into really for people who are celebrities or internet influencers.
Yeah.
Traditional publishers today, first of all, they have shrunk quite a lot. You
Yeah.
can't count on the bookstore model in traditional publishing was always about there were, Barnes and Noble at the time had like 8,000 bookstores. They're
Oh,
down to
wow.
right, they had a lot of bookstores. And so they've shrunk considerably. There's no more borders. Books a Million isn't that big. So, it's really not even about that for independent authors. So traditional publishing is hard to get into. It takes 18 months to 2 years to actually, once you even get a contract, if you can,
Yeah.
to get your story told and out there. They buy the rights to your book, to your story, so they can do anything with it. They can change anything. They're in control of the cover. They're in control of everything. So for most of us as independent authors, we want to control our own rights, intellectual property. We want to maybe do courses and webinars and create coaching businesses, right? Or just tell your story to leave to your children and family that this is what you went through, so they understand you better. Whatever your purpose is for writing the book, that's the first thing I would say is know your purpose for writing a book. But the way it's changed is now you've got options. Self-publishing was kind of always an option. However, Amazon used to have create space. They used to do everything for you. Now they do nothing for you. There's Kindle Direct Publishing. You still have to hire a copy editor and a cover designer and people typesetter, people going to put your book together, and then you've got to upload it. It's a lot of work on your part. And then of course there's hybrid publishing, which is the space that I am in. And that is like joining a team. So we're kind of a cross between traditional publishing and self-publishing. So when you work with us, you have a village, you have a team of experts who are going to take you by the hand. We're going to do the editing of your book, and we're going to work on a cover design, the typesetting. We're going to work on distribution, how your book is, and we're going to promote your book and put you on speaking stages and radio shows and podcasts, if that's what your interest is, right? Amazon bestseller campaigns, reviews. So getting you noticed and getting you visible is what we do best.
And there's an art to that. There is an art to that. And so someone like you that's got 35 years history in this is key, because if we go through all the work of getting the book, a heartfelt message completed and in writing, you've got to get it out into the world. And so that is key as well. So in hybrid publishing, the author still owns her content?
Absolutely. You own the book 100%. You're just giving us the exclusive right to publish the book, but all the rights are yours. You can terminate the contract at any time, but it's very important to know you can take your content, turn it into courses or social media blogs. Substack is a great way to start newsletters these days, and get the word out there. So yes, it's all yours.
I have met authors in that writing space who got into that relationship with their publisher, and about halfway through they started saying, I have no control over my book and how it's being portrayed. Wow. And they had trouble terminating their contracts and all this, and so their voice was dismissed.
Oh,
it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because when you have an important story to share to help a woman go to the next step forward in her life, it was heartbreaking for them. And it's like, but they were so eager to advance to be an author that they didn't have a trusted alliance like what we're talking about having here with hybrid. So
you'll have to be careful when reading a contract too, because if either they own the rights or they might say 7 years, where you can't do anything for 7 years to revert the right backs to you. So, we have authors too who have been stuck, and either some other self-publishing concerns are, you work with a company, and you can't get your PDF back. You can't get right. So then if you want to leave them, you may be able to terminate the contract, but you won't be able to get your book back. And then you have to start all over again. So it's really important to check that contract. So wow. I think it's outrageous when people do that, who won't, turn it over. You decide you want to do something else. You want to do another edition or whatever it is. You should be able to do whatever you're paying for it, right? So you should have full control over what happens.
Yeah. I actually have a very dear friend who's been working on her book for 10 years.
Wow.
And I circle back with her often, and it's a sweet message. And it's like, why are you not completing it? I sort of, and it's like, she was afraid to get that out there. And it's like, this is an incredible message. This tells these simple steps forward And look what you've done in the course of 10 years. So she's soon to finish it up. But you know now what her next hang up is? Dig this, Karen. She's worried about the ISBN number.
Really?
Oh, it's nothing to you, but it is to a new author. It is to a new author because that's a foreign language. And how do you do that and everything is like, are you serious? And so those simple.
Part of it, Beverly, is when you focus on the details, it's usually something bigger than that because it's such a personal story, right? And as you mentioned at the top of the hour, it's very intimate. Our journeys with breast cancer and our healing, right? And I see Bethany nodding.
Yeah.
It's so personal, so intimate that it's scary to put yourself out into the world. But you know what? There are so many people that are just starting this journey or just diagnosed. And it's, believe me, we all know how isolating and scary that is. And by you putting your message out there, you being survivors, you being the ones to, even if it's a step ahead of the person who's just being diagnosed, I cannot tell you how grateful this person would be to know that they are not alone.
Amen. Amen. And I will tell you, I'm here and alive today because 3 perfect strangers reached out to me in my darkest hour. This was 33 years ago. And they shared their story over the phone, perfect strangers. And I called them perfect because this is who God sent to me, that I would listen to them. And because they were able to give me hope when my medical world could not. And I learned firsthand the power of sharing one story. And that's what led me to start the magazine.
Amazing.
And so that's the reason this call today is that important. So what else would you like to share with breast cancer survivors today, and what questions might they have as well? I'm over in the chat. I'm just now looking at that. So
Right. Right. I'd love to hear some questions. I would just say that every day, just, either journal on your phone or write something down, whatever it is you're feeling, whatever it is you're going through. I took notes on, I know mushrooms. There are I learned about nutrition, right? And so I started writing down maitake mushrooms, for instance, are fabulous for, preventative cancer. Like obviously I can't say this is the FDA approved, all of that, but I'm learning that there are certain superfoods that are, and I think that's probably my next book, is to help people with nutrition and making sure that when you're not feeling well, just get up and move. Because we want to just right? We just want to curl up and either feel sorry for ourselves. But you know what? In healing, mindset is everything. Mindset is everything. And when you start to write down how you're feeling, it's like talking to a friend, right? So don't even, if you're not, don't even be concerned about, a lot of people decide they want to write a book, right? And they say, okay, and they sit down to write and they don't know what to write. So they're stuck, or they write something in a linear fashion. This happened this day and this happened that day. And I'm just saying, don't worry about that. Just put all your thoughts and your feelings and your stories and your anger and your grief and your wins, right? And your celebrations. Just put it all together. That's something we can help you with in terms of just put all those random thoughts together. And we, as experts, can help you kind of shape the book that you want.
Yes, absolutely. Because once they start getting all those even sticky notes out, you start seeing this is how the sequence for my book's going to run, how the messaging is going to run, and then my experience has been the first time you write a book, it's therapeutic for you, and then you sort of rewrite the book for your intended reader. And then it's like, then it's therapy for them. And so it's a double therapy type of thing. So, it's part of our own healing journey to be sharing this, So I just, yeah, this is one of the most sweetest, passionate areas I am in for 3 decades now. And that's, like I said at the beginning of the hour, that's why I align so much with Karen in her work and as a person in her dedication to this. So does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask Karen? Because it is rare when you can reach someone with Karen's experience personally to ask her a question. And if you have a question, you will need to unmute yourself, I believe, if I'm doing the technology side of it right. Bethany, can you unmute yourself?
I can.
Oh, very
Hi.
good. Thank you.
And I do. Hi there. I do have a question, and I've been working on kind of an anthology book with some friends on a different subject matter completely. And I know just from that experience that as you're looking at a book, publishers really have an issue with where that material, where that content has been. And so with my breast cancer journey, I've been kind of sharing pieces of my story in a blog. I've got a Substack. And so, but now that it's kind of being developed and I'm working through it, I'm seeing that there could be a book. I don't know. I don't know if that's what I'm meant to do in this season. I know it's been helpful to people on the blog and on my Substack and having those stories out there instead of holding them all.
Right.
But then when I look at doing a book, am I able, like, it's my story. So it's not like it's going to change and I'm going to come up with like new content for a book. Some of it's out there. So how does that work in the publishing
That's
world?
okay. I mean, first of all, the important thing is that you own the rights to the intellectual property, which obviously you do. It doesn't really matter if it's out there. First of all, you'll reach a much wider audience if you put it in a book. So you're going to have a lot of people who are new to you and your story. It will be available everywhere, your Substack. While it's available, it's still in pieces. A book kind of puts everything together, right? And it has a story and an arc, and an encouragement, so it's not just a simple thing of stories. It has a point.
And I know with the book, you would weave in more detail into the content, into the story arc and the storylines to provide hope to the reader or
Exactly.
bring that reader in and get them involved in the story. So I know that there's more. With this particular thing that I'm working on, like I know as we shop publishers for it, they're like, oh, well, is anyone bringing any stories that are out there already? And they're being very
concerned. Are you pitching to traditional publishers?
It's a Christian stories kind of anthology, and I'm not part of the team that's seeking out the publishing. But that team has come back to the group at large and said, listen, if any of this content is out there already, it might get flagged and pulled from the final product. So I just wasn't sure how that works when you're talking about a potential book on a subject that's your personal story and it's out on social media. It's in different places. Like you said, it's in all these different parts. And so the book puts it together and weaves more.
Right. I don't think it's a problem with, some publishers have a problem if the story is published somewhere else, and they're not the first and exclusive. In hybrid, we don't really work that way unless it's been published in another book, right? If your story's been published in another book, we might get flagged by Amazon or somebody like that, and they might check the rights.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay,
right,
so it might be that's what they're talking about, but it depends who the publisher is. But I'm happy to talk to them and to you, just to brainstorm if that would be helpful.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Does anybody, go right ahead.
Hi, Beverly, thanks for putting this together. I actually had the opportunity to write an article for you a while ago, and you did such a great job editing it and helping. So, and Karen, thanks for your expertise today. My name's Tambra Lane, and I run a health communications company called Well Beyond Ordinary. I'm one of those people that started well over a decade ago. I was a caregiver to my late husband who died of Hodgkin's. And I started writing about recreating my life as a young widow, and what that process was like. One of the strategies that I am looking at doing is making it a hybrid book. So I'm trained as a coach, and I've coached hundreds of people. And so the idea is to write a chapter, and at the end of each chapter have coaching tips and strategies I wish I'd had at my fingertips when I was going through the different particular pieces. And I'm curious to know how helpful that might be when it comes to trying to publish or sell a book.
I think it'd be extremely helpful that, that you can do frequently asked questions kind of thing at the at the end of each chapter, which is also very helpful for book clubs and other people as well if they're talking about it. But the questions at the end of each chapter or coaching tips that you have that align back to what you're saying in each chapter, I think would be very helpful.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Hi, Karen, and hi, everybody. Karen, thank you for that wonderful presentation. Hi, Beverly. And so my kind of comment is I really want to share my story, not so much as the entire book. I want to use my story as a springboard into another topic that will help other women who are diagnosed with breast cancer. So I'm kind of wondering, how would that work? The entire book wouldn't be, for example, a portion of it, the introductory part would just be about my story, but then it would veer off into a relatable topic that could help other women.
What do you mean a relatable topic?
I would say like isolation, how isolation kind of played a role in my journey as a breast cancer survivor, and how I found my way out of that space.
So I worked with a person who used to say, no one cares about your story. And was like, holy mackerel, did you just say that? What he meant was your story, and you hit the nail on the head, Avon. Your story needs to be relatable to a lot of people.
What's in it for the reader?
What's in it for the reader, always. Yeah. What did you learn that maybe that will help the reader? So is it Timberly? Timberly? Sorry. Tambra, thank you. Sorry. What Tambra said about, so she has her story, but she also has the coaching tips, and so it goes back beyond just the details of your own story. Does that make sense? So that you weave your story into what is relatable to a good portion of your audience. First, you have to decide, A, what's your purpose for writing this book? Who is it that you want to serve? Right? Who are those people out there that you want to help? And then how can you help them? And once you know those things, the book really comes together. Do you know what I mean? So that you have as the core your story, but you're going to break it up into pieces so that each kind of some people write a memoir about their story, and that's completely fine. If that's not something you want to do, which I don't think that is, from what I'm understanding, you break up pieces of your story to illustrate the idea and the point that you want to make to your identified audience. Does that make sense?
Basically, it's just really trying to help women who are newly diagnosed to understand that isolation is one of those things that do happen, but you can find your way out of it. And that's, basically what I want to kind of, like you said, weave
I
my
love it.
story in and out,
I love that.
helping them,
So what I would recommend
showing them
is,
how to get there.
sorry,
Mm.
yes, and I think that's great. And then you can give them tips and resources about what to do about getting out of isolation, and helpful tips of how they can reach out to people or so on and so forth. But I would also recommend maybe you interview other people who've been through it and get their tips of how they got out of isolation, because I think that's a common theme,
Oh, yeah.
particularly,
yeah.
right, Beverly, when you
hmm
first diagnosed. It's like you go to a dark place. You just go to a dark place and you think you're in this alone. And here's how to get out of it, right, Avon? That's and speaking with other women who've been through this, and what they did to get out of it, I think would be helpful as well.
I think, Karen, I'd like to jump on that real quick about your number one thing that you had mentioned, is because why we write a book or why we want to write a book, because our why is very, very important for other people to know. Where Avon doesn't want other women feel that loneliness that she went through. And if we stay stuck in loneliness, we don't move forward. So,
Right.
and she doesn't want anybody else to feel like that because they don't have to. So when we emphasize our why we're writing the book, whether it's in the introduction or on the back page of our book cover, why I'm writing this book is very important. And that solves something inside of you that says this book is worthy to be written and to be completed. And I always think, don't leave your why. Why are you writing this book? And then know who your targeted reader is going to be, so you can speak to them in their terms,
In their language.
in their language, and where they are, because you're meeting them where they are, not where you are, but you're wanting them to be over here on this side,
Great point.
with you, the breakthrough part, and sometimes we have those breakdowns before we have the breakthroughs, and that's who you're trying to reach. And there's there's over 1 million women in that space, and where women are being diagnosed younger and more. The percentage of women being diagnosed are increasing since COVID, because we did not get as many exams and all this kind of stuff through COVID. So your need to get that book out there is very, very timely.
The whole story in the New York Times today, actually, about that women under 50, there's a huge increase of women being diagnosed with breast cancer. The good news is that there's so much more technology, and they've made so many advances, that it's not what it was.
There's real hope. There is real hope. And,
It's
and I tell people, hope without help is hype. There's real hope in the world that we live today. So can you tell us a little bit about the writing process? That how you work with an author in the writing process, because that's when you're getting into the nitty gritty as far as being a published author, right, for you, because you can have that desire, but you got to do the work, darn it.
Right. I know.
But it's still good. But it's such a powerful experience, a powerful, you feel you come on the other side with not just a check mark, I'm a published author, but there's a knowing, because your story is richer and you're able to bring it to life through words. So I'll be still as you share that process with our women.
Such an accomplishment, to be able to complete that book and that story that you've been wanting to get out for a long time. So the writing process with us, anyway, is the key thing is, again, you are not alone. We hold your hand throughout the whole process. So you come to us with when you're ready, you come to us with whatever you've written. Maybe you've written an outline. Maybe you've written just some jumbled thoughts, or you have your story, whatever that content is. You will be working with a developmental editor who will help kind of solidify your story. First, we create an outline. So it's the big chapters, the big ideas in your book. And then what are the talking points? And then where are you going to insert, story? So if you want to write a memoir, that's a different animal. We work with you in a different way. But if you want to write a story like Avon or maybe Bethany, Tamara, if you want to write a different kind of a story, then we help you put it all together in different chapters. So that developmental editor works with you. So they interview you, right? And then they might say, okay, come back with 2 chapters, right? And let's do an assessment on those 2 chapters. And then we go along until this book is written. And the developmental editor is looking at what are we missing? What are the gaps? Always keeping in mind, what audience are we working to serve, right? Who are we speaking to? Are we speaking their language? We don't want to go over their heads, but we don't want to be condescending either. So we need to know demographics. And as Avon greatly said, she wants to speak to women who've just been diagnosed and are feeling isolated. That's a very specific audience, tons of them, but it's great. We now know exactly who we're going to target. So, and we can do a lot of research on that. So we help you put that all together. Then you come back to us where we've got the manuscripts. We assign a copy editor who works on the spelling and the grammar and the syntax. And then, we just put it together. We work on a cover. Now, all of this is collaborative, right? So we're working on a cover. We need your input and any kind of colors or graphic design or something like that you want to have. We have ideas as well, but we want your input as well. So, and then we have distribution to 40,000 retailers, wholesalers, libraries, bookstores, all around the world.
Wow.
Your book and your ebook will be up and available everywhere. We do not have sales reps that call on bookstores, but your local independent bookstore or a Barnes & Noble near you will be happy to usually stock the book. If it's a book signing, if you want to do a book signing, a book reading, we can usually help you arrange that. So through our distribution, we set up the right terms so that we know bookstores can order it if they want to, but certainly barnesandnoble.com and booksamillion.com, it will certainly be Amazon, obviously, will have the book online and available. And then we help you with a marketing plan. So, and that's very important. How are you going to get the book out there? What is it you want to do? Do you want to speak? Do you want to be on radio shows and podcasts? Do you want reviews? All sorts of, publicity, that kind of thing. So we'll help you kind of put it all together. You need to be on goodreads.com because that's the biggest social media platform for books. And my tip is you can join at any time. You don't have to be an author, and sign up as an account. It's free. And then join the groups that are particular to you, right? So join those groups, start contributing to those groups. So by the time you're writing your book and by the time the book is out, you're going to have all of these people who already know you, and they're going to want to support you in terms of helping you launch the book as well.
This is exciting. I love those words, when women's words come to life and they can share those messages with others. I just love it. Ladies, what other questions do you have today from this 35-year expert in the publishing space that she's admitting to 35 years?
Yes.
What about the fees? How does that work?
So we would talk individually, and depending on how many words your book is, kind of how much work we would put into it, if you need 10 hours from a developmental editor, if you need 30 hours with the developmental editor. So all of those add to the costs. And we would figure it out together, of what the cost range would be.
So that leads to the next question that I can send out a link to everybody here today for them, for if you have next questions, if you want to schedule a confidential time with Karen to look at some of these things, to see how ready you are for your book. I just know it's very satisfying to write that book, but I also know, as I said, with those 3 perfect strangers that reached out to me, touching someone's life after they've been diagnosed or any stage where they need help moving to that next transformational place and they don't know how, or they don't know somebody that's been where they are now. You're touching their life forever. And when you're writing a book, you don't know all the people that you touch. And so it's a different type of legacy that you're leaving. So I'm going to send that link out to everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll send that, and I'm going to send the recording out to you as well. So just, so you can process this, because it's a huge step, but it's a sweet step. And as much as you're doing it for others, you're doing it for yourself. But I do ask you to think through your why. Why do you want to write a book? Because a book can lead to other things. Being a speaker, being a nonprofit. I mean, it's a therapeutic thing to show you a bigger world for your message.
Right.
And in the world of breast cancer survivors, unfortunately, it is a huge and growing space. And there really cannot be enough books on this. And I can tell you 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when Barnes & Noble was still, Barnes & Noble, publishing weren't taking a lot of breast cancer stories. And that was when Chicken Soup was, really out there and everything. Whereas now the world is hungry for your message, for your transformational message. So, and very much needed, especially after coming through this darkness that we've been through with COVID.
Very much.
So I applaud you ladies for being here today. And Karen, I applaud you for taking the time to share this with, our breast cancer survivors, because, I'm in the world of magazine publishing, but I know how important that story is. And I know how women get caught up and bogged down by not understanding how important it is to get that out there. And I have so many women who have submitted stories to the magazine. It's like, this needs to be a book. It can't be in a 2-page article in the magazine. So I just encourage you ladies to consider that and listen to your heart, knowing you've got a 35 expert fellow breast cancer survivor for you on the writing journey, on the publishing journey.
And it doesn't hurt to
Author.
talk, right? Never hurts to talk. So
Yeah.
book an appointment. I'd love to speak with all of you. Learn your story. I can tell you a little bit about my story if you're interested, and get through this together. Let's take a journey together.
Awesome. Karen, thank you. Ladies, thank you for being here. And I look forward to seeing you in the publishing world. Way to go, ladies. All right,
Thank you,
take care.
everybody.
Any questions before we go? Are we good? Okay. All right. Thanks, ladies. Thanks, Karen.